Good morning, students. This will be a lesson on the next couple of pages in math. So lesson number 33, 34, and 35 are all going to be covered in this lesson. This is all about place values in decimals and how they interact with each other in fractions. So I have right here a review of what the place values are. We have the hundreds, tens, ones, decimal, tenths, hundredths, 1,000ths. Okay, so this pattern of hundreds, tens, ones, tens, hundreds gets repeated over and over again. So this period right here is in the ones place value, so ones, tens, hundreds, and then you have the 1,000s, 10,000s, 100,000s, and it just keeps going on forever. This is the exact same, except just it's like a mirror. Okay, so this is tenths, hundredths, 1,000ths, 10,000s, 100,000s. Just keeps going. So if you look at this number here, it's 432.987, or we'd say 432 and 987 thousandths. If I were to break it up, because we can do expanded form is when we isolate every single individual value on a number and we place it down and then we add them all together. So this is expanded form. So this is my original form and this is my expanded form. I have 400, I add 30, I add 2, and then I'm going to do every single individual place value after that. So I have 9 tenths, 8 hundredths, 7 thousandths, or I'd say 432 and 987 thousandths. Okay, so when we're doing this type of work, it's really just a matter of, do you remember this right here? That's what it comes down to. That's all it really comes down to. It doesn't need to be overly complex. It doesn't need to be a lot of extra thinking. It's just a matter of, do you understand this diagram? If you understand this diagram, you will be successful on these next couple of pages. If you don't understand this diagram, or you need to review it, this is why these pages are important. For those people that already know this diagram and are confident with it, it'll take you no time at all to complete these. But this is good practice for anyone that is unsure at this point. So moving on to the next page, which is a continuation of the same idea, page 131 and 132, lesson 34. We're going to look at the place values and just make equivalencies of fractions to decimals. So the nice thing about this is we actually say the words. We say what the fraction values are when we do this type of work, just naturally. So I can call this 432.987, or I can say 432 and 987 thousandths. Because I just said thousands, what I can imagine is there's a line right here, and this says 1,000, right? So this one right here, we have 7 tenths, because that's what the bottom number is. It's what you typically do. If we have something different, like 3 over 4, if I have 3 over 4 right up here, 3 over 4, I would say that is 3/4. Okay. Now, we don't have a decimal that is equivalent to 4. Well, we do, but we're not going to talk about that. 3/4. For this right here, we have 7 tenths. Now we actually have a place on our system that is the tenths place value, so it means we should put 7 there. So the number directly after the decimal is my tenths place value. That means I'm going to put a 7 here. I have 8 over 100, or 8 hundredths, and I actually have a place value that's known as hundredths, so I'm just going to put 8 there, so 0.08. I'm putting these zeros here because there's no value right now that this question is giving me to fill in over here. So whenever I don't know what the value is of these other ones, I'm just going to put zeros down. That's going to be important to remember as we move on to larger and larger numbers, because people maybe get confused as to where they need to place their nines. And the idea is the zeros make it so that the 9 doesn't get moved over. So if I'm not sure, I know that this is a decimal. I just don't know where it goes exactly. It's really important for me to stack my zeros to push that 9 out so it doesn't get pushed in too quickly. It's like, oh, it all of a sudden turns into a tenth or something. Okay, so I have 9 thousandths here. I need to remember where's my thousandths. It's 1, 2 places away from my decimal, so I'm going to put 2 zeros because there's no other value associated on this question. I'm going to put my 0, decimal, 0, 0, and then I'm going to put my 9 here because that's in the thousands column. Okay, so that's what I'm doing here. Now, we start going into more advanced stuff when we have something like this. So now we have 42 thousandths. And this is where people make lots of mistakes because they're not exactly sure how the 42 should look. Sometimes they put the 42 a little bit closer, so they ignore this 0 and they move it all over, or they will put the 2 here and then they'll put a 0 and they'll put a 4 or something like that. The idea is the last number that you see in your numerator, so my last number is my 2 right here, that's the number that sort of tells where everything else goes. Because it's a thousands place value, I'm going to make sure my 2 is in the thousands place value, and then I'm going to write the rest of this number. That's how it works. Okay, so I put my 2 down in the thousands place value. I put my 4 beside it because that's what this number is, 42. So I'm going to 42, and then no matter what, I have to still follow the rules of however many zeros I need to place before I put to my decimal. So this is 2 is in the thousands. I put my 4 in my hundredths, and I put a 0 in my tenths because there's no value there. Okay? This is that same diagram we were talking about before. I just drew it vertically. Tens, hundreds, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. And this concept is being repeated multiple times when we're talking about decimals, money, measurements. All these ideas are being repeated. Tenths and hundredths are used often in money because we have pennies, which are equal to hundredths, and we have dimes, which are equal to tenths. Okay, so if I were to say something like I have 2 dimes and 4 pennies, how would I write that down as a decimal? Well, I'd say I have 2 tenths and I have 4 hundredths. I could combine those and say I have 24 hundredths, which equals 0.24 with a dollar sign. Okay, because dimes are equal to tenths, pennies are equal to hundredths. I have 24 hundredths, or I have 0.24 or 24 hundredths. Okay, so these are pages 129 to 133. If you are feeling confident and you want to keep going, I encourage you to do so. I will have a lesson for the next pages tomorrow. I will be unavailable for a lot today for the funeral, so please remember that. Have a good day.